There's a silent strength in those who stop chasing and start mastering. Welcome to Stoic Diary. In a world full of promises to attract success through thoughts and energy, there is a forgotten path, a way that does not depend on the universe fulfilling your wishes, but on you aligning your soul with unshakable principles. This is the way of the Stoic. And before we begin, I want you to pause and reflect. Comment this: success is inner peace. Now let's dig into what that truly means. You've probably heard it. Visualize your future, feel it, believe it, and it will come. The law of attraction sells you the idea that the universe responds to desire. But here's the hard truth from the Stoic point of view. No amount of wishing can control what lies beyond your reach. Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control and others not." The Stoic does not beg the world to change. He changes himself to meet the world head-on. He builds character, not castles in the air. Many people suffer today because their peace depends on unpredictable outcomes: promotion, praise, love, fortune. They feed their anxiety with fantasies disguised as hope. Stoicism offers something radically different: calm, grounded in discipline, not in desire. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while enduring plague, war, and betrayal, yet he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the core of what we explore today. This isn't about giving up on dreams. It's about releasing the illusion that your emotions should rise and fall with the results of those dreams. You can want something and still accept that you may never get it. That's freedom. To the Stoic, success is not having everything you desire, it's desiring well. You align your efforts with reason and virtue, and then you let go. Not from weakness, but from wisdom. We live in a time obsessed with outcomes. How much money do you make? How many followers do you have? How fast are you rising? But none of that is in your control. What is in your control is your work ethic, your honesty, your discipline, and your reactions to hardship. This is what Stoicism sharpens. It teaches you that you don't attract success. You become the kind of person who can handle it without being destroyed by it. The Stoic doesn't try to manipulate reality. He works with it. He knows that suffering often begins when we demand life to be different than it is. You wanted someone to stay, and they left. You wanted an opportunity to come, and it didn't. A Stoic feels the sting, but doesn't crumble. He adapts, he learns, and above all, he remembers this: no external thing has the power to steal his peace unless he gives it permission. The law of attraction wants you to believe that life owes you something if you think positively. Stoicism reminds you that life owes you nothing, and that's the power. Because when you stop expecting the world to deliver and start delivering yourself to the world as a complete human being, disciplined, humble, alert, then something remarkable happens. You become unshakable, not because life becomes easy, but because you become hard to disturb. So in this series from Stoic Diary, we're going to explore how a Stoic truly attracts success, not by demanding outcomes, but by mastering his character. We'll study the core lessons from Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, not as history, but as a living toolkit. We'll look at what it means to control your perception, to train your will, to accept what you cannot change, and to act with full integrity no matter the result. Each part will take you deeper into the mindset that made emperors, soldiers, slaves, and philosophers stand tall in the face of disaster. You'll learn that what most people call manifestation, Stoics call action aligned with reason. You'll see that true success isn't what you get, it's who you become, not in some distant future, but in how you show up today. Let this be your turning point, not into blind belief, but into practiced wisdom. Let go of asking the world to change for you. Focus instead on becoming so rooted in purpose that no outcome can define you. And as you read on, carry this thought like armor. The Stoic does not attract success, he becomes it. The foundation of Stoicism is brutally simple. You divide life into two categories, what you can control and what you cannot. That's it. Everything you encounter must pass through this filter. If it's under your control, you engage it fully. If it's not, you accept it without complaint. Epictetus wrote, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not." From that moment forward, your suffering decreases, your clarity rises, and your peace deepens. Let's bring this to earth. When you wake up, do you control the weather? No. Do you control your boss's mood, or the traffic, or the economy, or your friend's loyalty? No. But do you control your decisions, your interpretations, your responses, and your standards? Absolutely. That is your battlefield. That is where Stoicism lives. Comment this: control begins within. You are not powerless, but your power lies in the right place. Trying to command the wind will break you. Learning to adjust your sail will set you free. Most people, however, invert this principle. They obsess over what they cannot control while neglecting what they can. They rage against outcomes, argue with circumstances, plead with fate, and in doing so, they surrender their composure. This is the subtle self-sabotage of the modern world, attaching your mood to outcomes you cannot master. A Stoic breaks that chain. He says, "I do not control what happens, but I always control what I do with it." This is not a philosophy of indifference. It's one of supreme discipline. You don't give up on effort, you give up on attachment. You act with full intensity, but release the need for the world to bend to your will. This makes you dangerous in the best sense. People who need everything to go their way are fragile. The Stoic, by contrast, is anti-fragile. He gets stronger with challenge, sharper with failure, calmer with chaos. Why? Because his stability comes from within. Let's take a practical example. You apply for a job. You prepare, you study, you rehearse. That's in your control. But the final decision? Not yours. If you're rejected, do you spiral into self-doubt, or do you acknowledge the result and return to your path with renewed focus? The Stoic path is this: leave nothing undone in what you can do, and detach from what you can't. That's not coldness. It's maturity, it's clarity, it's emotional armor forged in fire. Here's another scenario. You post something meaningful online, a truth, a belief, a value. Some people applaud, others mock. Are their reactions your domain? No. Your responsibility lies in the intention and integrity behind your words, not in the unpredictable reception they receive. A Stoic speaks from principle, not from the hunger for praise. He doesn't dance for approval. He stands still in his conviction. There's a kind of ruthless serenity in this. Imagine walking into your day, knowing that all the chaos outside has no claim over your inner calm. That the rude comment, the missed opportunity, the delayed result, none of it can penetrate your core unless you allow it. This is not detachment from life. It's deep engagement with the right part of life, the part that's truly yours to command. Now, let's address a common confusion. Doesn't this make you passive? Isn't it resignation? The opposite. The Stoic is fiercely active, but only in what he owns. He trains his mind, refines his ethics, strengthens his resolve. He's not a leaf in the wind. He's the tree rooted in storms. People who constantly try to control the uncontrollable are exhausted. The Stoic saves that energy and invests it where it grows, in self-governance. This philosophy becomes liberating when you apply it in relationships. You cannot control how someone treats you, but you can control how you respond. You can maintain dignity, set boundaries, speak truth, or walk away. The Stoic doesn't beg for love, loyalty, or understanding. He offers it, but never at the cost of his peace. He knows that virtue never depends on the other person's behavior. It depends on his own standard. In business or career, the same law applies. You can't control whether your ideas are accepted, whether your project is chosen, or whether success arrives when you expect it, but you can control your preparation, your learning, your perseverance. Many people burn out not because they work too hard, but because they expect rewards they cannot guarantee. A Stoic detaches from results and finds reward in the effort itself. Even in matters of health, which seem personal, the line of control is clear. You cannot prevent all illness, but you can choose to eat wisely, move your body, and face pain without complaint. Marcus Aurelius, writing while sick and exhausted, reminded himself, "If it is endurable, then endure it. If it is not, then stop complaining. Your body suffers, but your mind remains free." This is ultimate ownership. You may lose your strength, but never your sovereignty. And yes, life will still hurt. You will still lose people, fail at plans, and suffer setbacks. But the difference is this: you'll no longer be at war with reality. You'll no longer scream into the wind hoping it will listen. You'll walk through the storm, centered and calm, knowing that your thoughts, your choices, and your character remain yours, untouched by the chaos. This doesn't mean you never feel. Stoics are not robots. Seneca wept for his lost loved ones. Epictetus acknowledged pain and frustration. But they didn't let those emotions govern them. They gave grief its space and then returned to reason. They refused to be prisoners of impulse. And that's what made them free in a world that kept trying to enslave them. Imagine how much peace you could reclaim if you stopped trying to manage everything outside of you. If you stopped expecting others to behave, outcomes to align, luck to favor you, and instead you focused on waking up each day and simply saying, "Today I will govern myself. That is enough." Over time, that habit transforms you. People will feel you're calm. They'll wonder how you remain unmoved in a world of panic. And the answer will be simple. You learn to control what's yours and let go of what's not. To apply this now, choose 3 moments from your last 24 hours where you reacted to something you couldn't control. A comment, a delay, a result. Ask yourself, could I have responded differently? Was I clear on what was mine and what wasn't? This daily audit is how Stoicism becomes more than theory. It becomes reflex. It becomes your nature. And here's the deeper truth. When you finally stop grasping at control where it doesn't exist, you become more powerful than ever. Not in the shallow sense of dominance or achievement, but in the unshakable sense of self-command. That's the kind of person people trust, follow, and respect, not because they force results, but because they embody principle. Epictetus lived as a slave, physically broken, socially invisible. And yet, he taught kings. Why? Because he had mastered the one domain no one could take from him, his own mind. He taught that if you govern that domain fully, you lack nothing. You are not just a citizen of the world, you are sovereign in your own kingdom. Let others chase luck, signs, and validation. Let them hope the universe will favor them. The Stoic walks another road. He knows that life will not always reward virtue, but he lives virtuously anyway, because that's the only thing that's truly his. And when you live this way, something extraordinary happens. You stop being afraid, not because life is easy, but because you are ready for whatever it brings. So remember, the next time you feel anxiety rising, tension mounting, or disappointment looming, pause. Ask yourself one question. Is this within my control? If the answer is yes, act with full strength. If the answer is no, release it completely. That's the Stoic way. And in a world drowning in noise and confusion, it's the only path to true freedom. Comment this. Control begins within. There is a hidden war happening inside each of us. a silent conflict between what we want and what reality offers. The Stoics believed that peace only comes when we stop fighting that war. At the heart of their wisdom is a principle that cuts deep. We must desire only that which aligns with nature. Not nature as a distant idea, but nature as the unfolding of life, exactly as it is, unpredictable, imperfect, and outside of our control. When you desire things that conflict with how the world actually works, you suffer, you resist, you panic, you despair. But when your desires are shaped by what life actually gives, not what you wish it would give, you move with strength and clarity. Comment this: I align my desires with reality. That simple shift transforms your mind. Instead of seeing obstacles as injustices, you begin to see them as teachers. Instead of cursing what is, you ask, how do I meet this moment with dignity? Let's look closely. Most modern desires are based on fantasy. We want smooth paths, instant gratification, unshakable certainty. We want people to understand us without effort, plans to succeed without failure, and days to unfold exactly as we imagined. But this is not how nature works. Nature is chaotic, indifferent, surprising. It rewards preparation, not entitlement. The Stoic doesn't resent this. He embraces it because he understands that freedom doesn't come from controlling the world. It comes from loving it as it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "To love only what happens, what was destined, no greater harmony." That line is not passive surrender, it is supreme discipline. To love what happens means to adjust your expectations so that they no longer depend on wishful thinking. You still take action, you still plan, but you let go of the arrogant belief that the universe owes you a particular result. You desire with wisdom, not delusion. This is hard for modern minds to accept. We've been conditioned to believe that strong desire is a virtue in itself, that ambition means demanding more, pushing harder, refusing to accept limits. But the Stoic asks, is your desire rooted in reality, or are you at war with how life actually unfolds? If your desire requires the world to behave exactly as you imagine, it's a setup for heartbreak. But if your desire is flexible, if it adjusts to what's given and still moves forward, then you've mastered the art of living. Let's take an example. You desire love. That's natural. But if your desire requires one specific person to love you back, you suffer. Why? Because their feelings are not within your control. But if your desire is to love well, to be a kind and honest partner, to act with integrity, then that is yours. You can fulfill that desire fully, regardless of the outcome. And ironically, by desiring less selfishly, you often attract more genuine connection. The same applies to career. You desire success. That's normal. But if your success is tied to external titles, approval or recognition, you've given your peace to factors you can't command. The Stoic reframes this. Success is doing your work with excellence day after day, no matter who notices. It's showing up, refining your craft, and acting in alignment with virtue. That success can never be taken from you. Nature is not sentimental. It doesn't respond to your dreams because you feel them deeply. It responds to effort, rhythm, discipline. The seasons change, storms arrive, opportunities disappear. You can't stop any of it. But you can prepare, adjust, and endure. You can want what's possible and let go of what's not. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Think of a river. It doesn't argue with the rocks. It moves around them. It doesn't resent the terrain, it adapts. The Stoic desires like a river flows, steady, clear, and flexible. He doesn't abandon purpose, he aligns it. If one door closes, he finds another. If a plan fails, he learns. If life turns against him, he doesn't cry out in confusion. He says, so this is the path now, and walks it with courage. This mindset removes so much unnecessary pain. How many times have you clung to a desire that no longer made sense? A plan that collapsed, a person who changed, a dream that didn't fit you anymore. And yet you held on. You suffered not because life failed, but because your desire refused to evolve. A Stoic lets go with strength, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much to remain chained to illusions. To apply this principle, begin each morning with a question. Are my desires today shaped by reality or by fantasy? Ask yourself, what can I want today that depends only on me? Maybe it's the desire to speak truthfully, to respond with patience, to work diligently. These are desires nature approves of because they're in your hands. You don't need perfect conditions to fulfill them, just will, just focus. Seneca wrote, "A wise man is content with his fate, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." That doesn't mean he has no ambition. It means his ambition is aimed inward. He doesn't hope for the world to give. He prepares to give himself to the world regardless of the outcome. He finds joy in acting well, not in getting everything he wants. There's a strange thing that happens when you adopt this mindset. You begin to get more than you expected, not because the universe suddenly rewards you, but because you've trained your eyes to see opportunity in places others overlook. You find peace in the process. You find strength in discomfort. You find freedom in surrender, not surrender of action, but surrender of control over what isn't yours. And yes, this requires practice. It won't come in one day. Your old habits of desire will resurface. You'll still feel that tug of wanting things to be easier, cleaner, faster. That's normal. The key is to catch yourself, to pause when desire arises and ask, is this within the flow of nature? Or is this my ego demanding a different universe? That single question can save you from hours of stress, days of resentment, and years of wasted energy. You may be wondering, but what if my desire is good? What if I want justice, healing, or truth? Then you pursue it. But with open hands, you work toward justice, knowing the world may resist it. You speak truth, knowing it may be rejected. You offer healing, knowing it may not be accepted. You desire the right things, but you don't break when the outcome doesn't match the effort. Because your fulfillment lies in the attempt, not in the applause. Desiring in accord with nature doesn't kill emotion, it elevates it. It turns desire from desperation into devotion. You stop begging life to give and start offering life your best. You wake up not with demands, but with readiness. You stop saying, "This isn't fair," and start asking, "How do I respond?" That shift makes all the difference. The Stoics were not cynics. They didn't say, "Don't care about anything." They said, "Care deeply, but wisely." Attach your heart to values, not to results. Build your joy on action, not on outcome. That's how you remain intact when life shatters your plans, because your foundation wasn't built on fantasy, it was built on virtue. Try this exercise tonight. Write down 3 desires you had today. Then ask, were they realistic? Did they depend on something outside of my control? If so, reframe them. Train yourself to want only what you can pursue directly, with your own reason, character, and choices. That's where your true power lies. The more your desires align with nature, the less you suffer, the less you complain, the more you adapt, act, and evolve. You stop demanding a perfect world and start shaping yourself for the real one. That is the quiet revolution of the Stoic path. And it begins not by changing your circumstances, but by changing your aim. You will still want. That's human. But now you want with clarity. You know that wanting isn't the problem, wanting blindly is. The Stoic sees, accepts, adjusts, and moves forward, not because he has no emotions, but because his emotions serve his reason, not the other way around. And so we return to the principle: desire only what aligns with nature. Want only what you can chase with integrity. If you do this, the world can no longer break you, because your hopes are no longer tied to outcomes. They are tied to effort, to discipline, to wisdom. Comment this: I align my desires with reality. There's a kind of poverty that hides behind luxury. A person can wear fine clothes, drive expensive cars, and hold high titles, yet be internally bankrupt, restless, angry, constantly in need of validation. Stoicism teaches us that true prosperity is not a matter of possessions, but of perception. It is not what you have, but how well you govern yourself. That is inner wealth. That is the prosperity the world cannot touch or take. Wealth is not defined by what fills your hands, but by what fills your character. Comment this: wealth is peace of mind. Seneca, one of the richest men of his time, wrote that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Think about that. Craving is a sign of inner hunger, not of external need. When you are at peace, you stop chasing everything, not because you lack ambition, but because you have order inside. This is where the Stoic path diverges sharply from the noise of modern life. You are told daily that happiness is something to buy, success something to flaunt, peace something to find outside of yourself. But the Stoics knew better. They taught that the only stable wealth is virtue. That character is currency, that a quiet conscience is the richest bed to sleep on. When you internalize this, you no longer feel inferior in the face of worldly displays. Imagine waking up not with the anxiety of what you need to gain, but with the clarity of what you already are. You already possess the tools to be great: reason, will, discipline, courage. But you must cultivate them. Like a garden, they need daily tending. You cannot expect strength of mind if you do not train it. You cannot expect calm under fire if you have never practiced enduring discomfort. Inner prosperity is earned, not inherited. This training begins in your thoughts. You must learn to audit them like a wise merchant. Which thoughts serve you? Which weaken you, which are grounded in truth, and which are inflated by ego or fear. Seneca wrote, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable." So every time you catch yourself spiraling into imagined losses or unearned fears, bring yourself back. Say, "This is not happening. My peace is not for sale." A key exercise in cultivating inner wealth is negative visualization. You picture the loss of what you value, not to cause pain, but to sharpen gratitude and reduce attachment. Picture your health failing, your possessions gone, your loved ones far. Then open your eyes and see them as gifts, not guarantees. This rewires your perspective. You become grateful for little, and that is a deep form of wealth. Another practice is voluntary discomfort. Choose moments to be cold, to walk instead of drive, to delay a pleasure, to skip a luxury. Not to suffer, but to prove to yourself that you are not ruled by comfort. When you learn that you can endure lack, you fear less, and when you fear less, you become powerful. Marcus Aurelius bathed in rivers, slept on hard beds, led armies, yet ruled with gentleness. Why? Because his strength came from within. You may ask, but what about real hardship? What if I lose everything? That is where inner prosperity proves itself. Anyone can feel calm in good times. But the Stoic builds a fortress in his soul. When life burns down what he built, he remains. He grieves, yes. He feels pain, of course, but he does not crumble, because his wealth was never in the building. It was in the builder. Let's bring this to your daily life. You encounter someone richer, more praised, seemingly ahead. Do you envy them? Or do you remember that many outwardly successful people are slaves to their image, crushed by pressure, hollow inside? Don't be fooled by surface wins. Ask, is this person free? Because freedom is the real luxury, and it is available to anyone willing to master their mind. You cultivate inner prosperity when you act from principle, not impulse. When you choose the harder right over the easier wrong. When you tell the truth, though it costs you. When you keep your word, though no one notices. These small acts are deposits in your inner account, and over time, they grow into unshakable confidence. Not arrogance, confidence rooted in integrity. Epictetus was born a slave. He had no wealth, no fame, no status, yet emperors studied his words. Why? Because he taught men how to be sovereign over themselves. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." You may lose money, opportunity, even liberty, but if you keep your reason and your virtue, you remain unconquered. That is real richness. There's another dimension to this. Inner prosperity is also measured by your capacity to give. The person who has peace shares peace. The person who has clarity uplifts others. You cannot pour from an empty cup. But when you are full inside, stable, focused, purposeful, you give generously without depletion. That giving reinforces your strength. You are not emptied, you are expanded. And yes, this path is hard. It requires daily effort, constant vigilance, and the humility to begin again each time you fall. You will slip, you will lose your center, but every return to your principles strengthens them. You are not trying to be perfect, you are trying to be aligned. That alignment, slowly built and fiercely protected, is worth more than any currency the world can offer. So how do you start? Begin tonight. Ask yourself, what did I do today that made me richer in character? Was it a moment of patience, a truth spoken, a selfish urge resisted? These are your real earnings. These are the treasures that last. They do not rust. They do not vanish in crisis. They go with you everywhere, even into death. Remember, a poor man with discipline is wealthier than a king enslaved to fear. A quiet worker focused on service has more peace than the loudest millionaire chasing dopamine. Stoicism does not ask you to give up the world. It asks you to hold the world lightly and to hold yourself tightly, to build a life that is rich in self-command, rich in clarity, rich in quiet purpose. There will be temptations. You will be told that peace lies in more followers, more likes, more speed, more applause. But the Stoic listens to a quieter truth, that peace lies in less but better, less distraction, more focus, less noise, more depth, less craving, more presence. You trade volume for value, and in that trade, you win everything that matters. Let's not romanticize hardship. Life will hit you. You may face betrayal, failure, injustice, grief. But Stoicism prepares you to stand when others fold, to breathe when others panic, to act with poise when others lash out. This is not about being above emotion. It's about not being ruled by it. Emotion comes and goes. Character endures. And finally, do not confuse quietness for weakness. The Stoic may not shout, but he is heard. He may not boast, but he commands respect, because his presence speaks of someone who has seen himself, wrestled with his impulses, and emerged with clarity. That presence cannot be bought. It can only be earned through discipline, honesty, and daily practice. So cultivate inner prosperity like a sacred flame. Feed it with truth. Guard it with discipline. Share it with humility. And when the world asks you what you own, you will answer, not with things, but with self-mastery. Comment this: wealth is peace of mind. There's a line in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations that echoes across centuries like a war drum. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is not metaphor. This is a direct order from a man who ruled an empire under siege. It is also one of the most liberating truths in Stoicism. Obstacles are not interruptions. They are invitations. They are not the end of the road. They are the road. The moment you stop seeing problems as punishments and begin to see them as fuel, your entire life changes. Comment this: the obstacle is the path. This idea sounds romantic until you are face to face with rejection, illness, betrayal, failure. Then the test begins, and it is in those moments that Stoicism proves itself. You are not told to enjoy pain, but to use it. You are not asked to deny hardship, but to draw strength from it. Most people shrink from difficulty. They wait for the storm to pass. The Stoic walks into the storm with eyes open, asking, "What can I practice here? What virtue is being called out of me?" If life has placed a wall in your path, the question is not, "Why me?" but "How do I grow stronger by climbing this?" That shift from victim to student is the beginning of power, because now life cannot corner you. Every hit becomes instruction. Imagine the worst moment in your life. What did it teach you? Did it humble you? Did it sharpen your sense of what matters? Did it burn away your illusions? The Stoics believed that adversity refines us like fire refines gold. It burns the false, reveals the essential, and forces us to confront who we really are. Comfort hides weakness. Struggle exposes potential. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Yet, in our modern world, discomfort is seen as a flaw, a failure, a detour. We're taught to avoid pain at all costs, but in doing so we also avoid transformation. No one grows strong in luxury. No one gains discipline by always being pleased. Real strength is carved through friction. Let's take a real-world example. You lose your job. It stings. Your plans collapse. But a Stoic asks, what skill have I ignored? What truth did I avoid? What new path now reveals itself? This is not optimism. This is responsibility. You refuse to let life define you by what it takes. You define yourself by how you respond. You turn the fall into a forge. The same goes for emotional betrayal. Someone you trusted disappoints you. You feel hurt. But instead of spiraling into resentment, the Stoic says, "Here is my test. Can I maintain my character while others lose theirs?" You still feel the pain, but you do not surrender your integrity to it. You remain grounded in your principles, even as others abandon theirs. That is inner strength in action. Obstacle becomes opportunity not by denial, but by decision. You decide to look deeper, to act better, to rise higher, not because the world makes it easy, but because you refuse to shrink. Life hands you raw materials. You turn them into form. Life gives you chaos. You build order. Life wounds you. You forge wisdom. That is the Stoic craft. This doesn't mean you should seek pain. It means you should stop fearing it. Pain will find you. Misfortune is part of the natural rhythm. But how you meet it determines who you become. Will you bend toward bitterness, or will you stand in resilience? That choice belongs to you, even when nothing else does. There's a kind of pride that grows in those who endure with grace. Not arrogance, but a quiet self-respect. You know you've faced fire and not turned to ash. You've walked through doubt and held your ground. The next time hardship comes, you do not panic. You prepare, because you've trained. You've lifted the weight of adversity before, and now you lift it again. Even physical suffering can be transformed. Epictetus lived with a crippled leg, likely from abuse. Yet he taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You may lose ability, but you never lose the ability to respond with dignity. That power is always yours. And when you exercise it, you move from pain to purpose. Think of the Stoic like a blacksmith. Life heats the iron, strikes it with force, shapes it with pain. But each blow is a step closer to form. Each hardship molds character. You do not come out of the fire unchanged. You come out forged. And the more you embrace this, the more fearless you become. You may ask, but what if I break? Then you begin again. Starting over is not weakness, it's wisdom. Even Marcus Aurelius had moments of despair. but he returned each time to his discipline. That's what Stoicism demands. Not perfection, but persistence. Not unfeeling, but unwavering. Here's how you apply this today. The next time something goes wrong, small or large, pause. Take a breath. Ask, what's the lesson here? What can I build from this? Who can I become through this? Don't just survive it, study it. Let pain be your instructor. Let frustration be your focus. Let challenge be your chance. And don't wait for tragedy to begin training. Practice now. Seek voluntary difficulty. Choose the longer route. Embrace the hard conversation. Delay the comfort. Each time you do, you build resistance, and resistance becomes resilience. The Stoic doesn't just react to life, he prepares for it. And in preparation, he becomes indomitable. Inner peace is not the absence of struggle, it's mastery within it. The world may still fall apart, plans may still crumble, but you do not, because you no longer ask life to be easy. You ask yourself to be ready. That mindset separates the lost from the grounded, the anxious from the anchored. The obstacles are not a curse, they are a call to rise, to face, to refine. Stop looking for a way around the difficulty, look directly into it. Within that storm lies the exact conditions needed for your next breakthrough. The path was never meant to be smooth, it was meant to shape you, and the more you practice this, the less you fear. Not because the pain lessens, but because you've grown beyond it. You've turned wounds into wisdom, pressure into purpose, and resistance into readiness. The obstacle is not something to avoid. It is the very thing you must use. You are not here to be untouched. You are here to be tested and to become something solid, something rare, something others can look to and say, there is someone who does not run when it gets hard. There is someone who stands. Comment this. The obstacle is the path. Sometimes we search for transformation in the wrong places. We think it lives in a new job, a relationship, a number in a bank account. But the truth, the hard, liberating, and unshakable truth, is that the change we seek begins within. Not with a miracle, not with a sign from the universe, but with a decision to take ownership of ourselves, fully, ruthlessly, and lovingly. That's what Stoicism has been trying to tell us for over 2,000 years. That's what we've explored together in this series here on Stoic Diary. We began with the illusions of control, how most people waste their lives chasing what cannot be controlled, approval, outcomes, fate, while neglecting the one thing they truly own, their mind. We saw that freedom doesn't come from making the world obey us. It comes from training ourselves to obey reason, principle, and courage. The person who understands this stops fighting the world and begins refining themselves. That's not surrender. That's supremacy over the only kingdom that matters, the self. We moved on to the nature of desire, how most suffering is born not from what happens, but from wanting things to be different. We saw that desiring in accord with nature is not a withdrawal from life, it's an embrace of reality. To want only what is possible, to pursue only what aligns with truth, and to let go of fantasy, that is clarity. It's also freedom. You no longer beg the world to cooperate with your illusions. You simply act wisely and with intent no matter what happens. Then we stepped into the inner world, the realm of prosperity that can't be seen, bought, or stolen. The Stoic does not measure wealth by appearance, but by stability. Not by status, but by character. We learned that inner prosperity is built daily through habits, reflections, discomfort, and discipline. That it's not found in escape from difficulty, but in facing difficulty without losing your balance. A calm soul, a focused mind, a steady heart, that is real abundance. And in our last lesson, we confronted the most painful reality of all, obstacles. How every struggle, failure, and loss, if seen correctly, becomes fuel. We are not broken by hardship unless we allow it. We are shaped by it. The Stoic does not ask for ease. He asks for strength. He does not wish away the storm. He prepares for it, welcomes it, and grows from it. The obstacle is not what stops you, it's what begins you. Now here we are. After all these lessons, what remains? What remains is you, your mind, your will, your next step. You do not need to wait for the right moment to begin living by these principles. The world will never be stable enough. People will never behave perfectly. Life will never hand you peace on a platter, but it will give you something better. The opportunity to earn peace through discipline. And once you've earned it, no one can take it from you. Think of how powerful that is. You're not a leaf in the wind. You are the wind. You are the force that moves through uncertainty with intention. That doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It means you'll know what to do with it. You'll feel it, but not be ruled by it. You'll face setbacks, but you'll meet them like a soldier meets the field, ready, eyes open, spirit firm. Many people walk through life afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, afraid of being unseen, unheard, unloved. But a Stoic understands that fear loses its grip the moment you stop seeking control where it doesn't exist. You are not here to be approved of. You are here to act well. You are not here to win every battle. You are here to fight with honor. You are not here to be safe. You are here to be whole. That kind of mindset is rare, and it's why the Stoic stands out, not through noise, but through presence. You can feel it in someone who has trained their soul. They walk slower. They speak with intention. They don't chase. They don't flinch. They don't crumble under pressure, not because they're perfect, but because they've practiced. They've lived in the fire and chosen to stay awake. Maybe you're just starting this path. Maybe you're in the middle of a storm. Maybe you've failed so many times that you're not sure if you can rebuild. Let me say this to you clearly. Yes, you can. Not because life will suddenly be fair, but because you can become the kind of person who no longer depends on fairness to move forward. You've already tasted pain. Now choose to make meaning from it. You've already known fear. Now choose to move through it. You've already failed. Now choose to rise without shame. This is not about proving anything to others. This is about proving to yourself that you are no longer governed by impulse, distraction, or weakness. This is about becoming someone who could lose everything and still walk with calm. Someone who could be betrayed and still act with dignity. Someone who could see the end and still choose to live well until the last breath. Every day, you wake up with a choice. Will I react or will I respond? Will I blame or will I build? Will I collapse or will I correct? You don't need the world to change. You need to change how you face the world. From this moment forward, every difficulty becomes your training ground. Every delay becomes your chance to practice patience. Every insult, your chance to practice restraint. Every failure, your chance to sharpen purpose. This is how the Stoic becomes untouchable, not because life stops hurting, but because he stops fearing hurt. And now I want you to ask yourself, which lesson from this journey struck you the most? Which part of your life needs the Stoic lens? Where have you been giving power to things that do not belong to you? Comment your answer, speak it out, make it real, and then act. Because insight without action is vanity. The Stoics were not just thinkers, they were doers. Marcus Aurelius ruled, Epictetus taught, Seneca wrote and served. They lived in a brutal world, but they lived with clarity. And now, so can you. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need more approval. You need more virtue. You don't need to attract anything. You need to align everything, your thoughts, your values, your choices. So rise now. Take what you've learned and let it become who you are. You've walked the path through control, desire, inner wealth, and challenge. Now you walk forward, not waiting for peace, but carrying it with you. Not chasing success, but becoming worthy of it. Not asking life to be easy, but asking yourself to be excellent. This is Stoic Diary, and this is just the beginning. Comment your lesson, share this video, and go live like a philosopher, quietly, fiercely, and free.